Time is now 8:31. We'll call the Community Redevelopment Agency Board meeting of today. What is today's date?
24th.
August 24th.
August 24th. 2003 to order.
23.
2023.
Need more coffee. Good.
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Let's see if we can get that right. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I don't drink coffee, so that may explain a couple things.
Not that I want to share mine, but take a
I
sip.
know. Thank you, but keep your coffee to yourself. Okay, we'll go with citizen comments. Do we have any? None? Okay. We'll move to the consent agenda. First item, well, both items, the minutes from the July 26th and August 9th meetings. Chair will entertain a motion to approve consent agenda.
I move to approve the consent agenda, items 4A and 4B.
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion? Hearing none. Take a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Passes unanimously. Next topic for discussion is in all CRA districts, Community Redevelopment Agency appointment of CRA Executive Director. This is a chance for us to discuss the candidates. We do have two candidates in the audience right now, Dr. Burton and also Mr. Mignon. You're welcome to stay, but we'd ask if possibly, Madam Attorney, if they would possibly leave.
Correct. I mean, you can ask and request that the candidates leave. I mean, obviously, you can't force them to because it's a public meeting. But I would think that if the board is asking the candidates to leave just so that they can, have open and frank discussions, it would maybe be in the best interest for the candidates to do so, but you are not required to.
It'll all be on YouTube later,
Right.
Well, and it's playing in the bathroom.
Right.
Oh, yeah. Oh.
so don't go to the bathroom. All right, so we finalized it down to Dr. Jeff Burton, Christopher Mignon, and Michelle Gonzalez from St. Petersburg Beach, St. Pete Beach. And this is a chance for us to discuss the candidates and see if we can decide on who we want to go with.
Okay. You want
Go ahead.
me to start? Sure. Did you pull your mic?
No, okay.
Looking that way, so.
I was going to share that when I went into the interviews with the three candidates, when I came out actually of the interview with the three candidates was that each of them has strengths and weaknesses that are different from each other. And I think that we're at a point in time where, depending on what our policy objectives are going to be going forward, we have to analyze the strengths and weaknesses in the context of what we actually think we might need, I think, going forward, because I get a sense that we're in this period of I want to say reformation, but change, progress, whatnot. That said, I can just run through my thoughts on each of the candidates, and then we can all share. Mr. Mignon, in my opinion, his strengths obviously include confidence that he can dedicate himself to the task at hand. He's already proven that because he's been, he stepped up and acted as interim executive director at a time when we were in a state of flux. So I think that was a big job, and I think he deserves credit for that. He's not the most qualified candidate in the pool. That strength clearly is for Jeff Burton. But I think that given his track record, I have no doubt that he could learn and, continue to excel. And I also trust that in my conversations with him, I have a sense of what he would do policy-wise, but I trust that he would let us dictate that to him. Jeff Burton, like I said, is probably the most qualified in the candidate pool, has the most experience, and we know that. And I have no doubt that he could herald us into a time of change. My only hesitancy is that personality difference in that there's a potential, I think, for him to be a little more dictating to us what our policy objectives might need to be versus us dictating to him. I'm sorry, I'm using the word dictate. And then Michelle Gonzalez, I found to be, I loved her enthusiasm. I loved her sense of going after things. Doesn't have experience necessarily working with the CRA specifically, but in my interview with her, she had done some research, and I felt that she was smart and could bring some kind of energizing thing to the board, which I really liked a lot. And then again, her only, I thought, my only hesitancy with her is that she probably has the least amount of experience working with a CRA. But I would not mind seeing some of that, excitement and that enthusiasm brought to our board at this time of change. That's my backdrop for my analysis. So that's my thought on the 3 candidates that we interviewed. I can't wait to.
Who,
Oh.
Ms. Coker was next.
Oh, okay. I would reiterate every single thing that you said. I felt like, without going into everything, I felt like Mr. Burton definitely, his knowledge far exceeds probably most people. I mean, there could probably be no one more knowledgeable about it than he is. The other thing that weighed a lot for me was that he has strong ties to our community, is a longtime resident, and I think we've been missing that connection to people that know who's done what. Not that we're trying to look backwards, but just has a knowledge of who are the stakeholders in this community. And I just, that to me weighed pretty strong. And also I asked him about, because I've been concerned about the push to hire a lot of staff. And he has managed, I believe it was $1 billion in budget.
For CRAs.
4 or 5 CRAs with 1 staff person. And so I think I'd like to, that weighed a lot for me as well. Not to take away from the other candidates, everything you said, 100%. And I'd love to see both of those other candidates stay a part of the city and be a part of what I think is going to be an exciting time for us. Hopefully that excitement will rub off on everybody, so.
I can say ditto on all the expressions about the strengths of the 3 candidates. I just kind of want to say something, though, about working with only 1 employee and 4 or 5 CRAs. I'm not sure when the time was at that time and the size and makeup of those CRAs. Not to take away from the fact that he feels he could work with less, which makes me want to also make this comment that I was going to make even prior to that statement, is if it's not the current interim, I would hope that the new executive director would appreciate that the people that were left here after our craziness really held up. And it's a great staff, so I hope we're not going to consider downsizing. But it's a great staff, and they did a wonderful job getting us to this point. And there was a lot of lack of direction in some cases, and they still held on and kept things going. So all 3 candidates, I knew 2 of the candidates, but the 3rd was Ms. Gonzalez, and she really impressed me. So we really had quite a field to choose from, but I concur with all the different strengths that have been mentioned for each individual.
Can I just make one response, though? I was no way wanting to get rid of staff in any way.
No.
I completely agree with you.
And I didn't think you were. I was just kind of putting that out
I think
there.
my point was more that I think, and my hope is that we'll have an advisory board for the other CRAs and put more on them. And That's.
I got you, I got
Okay.
you. No, I wasn't saying you were doing
Yeah.
that. I just put it out there because we're talking about some other people and their process.
Mrs. Barnaby.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I too agree with, I'd say 99% of what has been said. I would say to the concern that as a board member, one might feel dictated to, I would look at the makeup of this board.
True, true.
And I'll just say this, the fact that you got two redheads sitting up here and four very intelligent women and hey, I didn't stop.
It's a pregnant pause.
No, I didn't stop. It's
And the
called,
dude.
no. And for emphasis, a chairman who's intelligent enough and caring enough to work with all of us very well.
Thank you.
So as far as a board member being dictated to, that's not my concern.
It didn't work well.
That's a good point.
I feel that strong leadership is needed in this position. I have the bonus, I'll say, of coming back to Bradenton in 1983 when the DDA, the predecessor to the CRA, was just getting started. And how difficult it was for them to do anything because you had a mayor at that time that would not allow them to set up a special tax district, would not allow them to do many things that the other DDAs were doing. So they were hampered for an extended period of time by the fact that he wouldn't allow them to issue bonds, he wouldn't allow them to borrow money. So they kind of limped along. They had a part-time director, no other staff, and they kind of limped along. And this, I'm not casting aspersions on the planning director at that time or the DDA director at the time. They did the best that they could with what they had. We now have the benefit of being able to take the tax increment funding, the guts of a CRA, and be able to start making significant improvements and significant change in our community. But realize CRAs don't last forever. And we need to make hay while the sun's shining. We've got to get some of these projects going. We've got to be the catalyst that is going to show developers, going to show the community that we mean business. I keep hearing, we need a grocery store in downtown. Well, I know, because I've looked at what the demographics that grocery store chains look at before they will make the decision to build a grocery store in an urban area. We are this close. And I think having the right executive director can get us to that finish line. We had 3 candidates to choose from, and as it's been said, they all had strengths and weaknesses. But when I look at the resume of Dr. Burton, I know historically what he's done. He's been an elected official before. And he's worked in very different departments throughout 2 different cities. And I think with that knowledge and with the historical knowledge that he has, his contacts throughout the southeastern United States, that I would not be making a good choice if I didn't recognize that.
Thank you. So normally my role, sitting over there during council meetings, is to let my esteemed colleagues talk, and I'm like, yeah, that sounds good. Everything you said is pretty much spot on. To the point of Mrs. Gonzalez was impressive enough that I would like to somehow recruit her without putting it out there on YouTube, but I think we just did.
Mr. Chairman, if I can add,
Yes.
I actually took her resume down and made a couple of copies and shared it with some people in the city, saying, I would love to have someone of her abilities and her caliber working somewhere in the city.
Well done.
We did not coordinate that, okay? If anybody knows that I did.
And I don't think that this was inappropriate, but we did, her and I, in my interview, did talk, I'm sorry to interrupt you.
That's all right.
Do you want me to wait?
No?
Okay. We did talk a little bit about family, and she does have ties here. She expressed to me that she has family that lives here, so I think there is, yes, I think there is, she has that, there's a tie. So anyways, to the point, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Thank you. But ultimately, I think, as has been said here, Dr. Burton really did rise above with his experience, certainly his know-how, and I think his enthusiasm for what is to come. To echo your sentiment, there is potentially a lot of change coming into the city, specifically in the areas of the CRA, specifically really in every one of the CRAs, there's something new happening. Be it whatever's under discussion for where we're sitting right now, to the business flare plan for the central CRA and the MLK corridor, to us changing to the Tamiami Trail CRA and the much needed changes there. I have full confidence that if selected, Dr. Burton will be able to handle that well. So is there any further discussion?
Just one other little item. I think I would be remiss if I didn't ask you all if you had any reservations about someone other than Mr. Mugnon's ability to step in and rally staff, because my understanding is that because the work that they've done stepping in with the departure of the previous executive director, I think my observation has unified them quite a bit. And I just raise it as a question. Do we have any reservations? Potentially, this could be demoralizing from a, just morale standpoint, and what kind of personality will it take to kind of make it a team environment again?
I think anyone that's been in a professional leadership position can recognize what the CRA organization has been through, coming from the situation with COVID, where you had the then city administrator being the city administrator, the planning director, and the CRA director. I mean, that was prior to this, but there are staff people that were there through this whole thing. And then through finding a director and hiring a director, and unfortunately, it did not work out as well as one would have hoped. But I think anyone that's been in a professional leadership position can recognize that situation.
And if I can piggyback on that, and it's, I feel, our job as a board to monitor that, should it go in that direction. And I, from what I've picked up from all three candidates, the capability to be a team player, I feel, is there. Let's hope. If not, we'll have to work at it again.
Hope with confidence.
That's it.
Okay, any further discussion? All right, yes, ma'am.
Are we ranking or voting? Are we
I
making
think
a motion, or
I
are
think
we-
at this point, a motion needs to be made.
Okay.
and then you vote it up or down, but I'm not the attorney.
Correct. I think at this point, if discussion is done, then Chair can entertain our motion. And I was just going to suggest that if we're at that point, then if you want to bring the candidates back in, or just keep in mind that they're still out, so.
Okay, if you'd like to, someone go find them and bring them back in, please. We'll wait.
A little bit.
You'd never see it.
Is it, may I ask if it's inappropriate for us to just make a statement before we vote?
I mean, that would be up to the chair, so.
The discussion period is, I've not entertained a motion yet, so the discussion is still theoretically open, so.
I was just gonna say generally that I am torn and that I would say that I don't know that I have confidence that I know for certain the right answer. But that I hope that, you know, whoever is selected, that, you know, we move forward with a positive working environment and embrace that change and moving forward.
And as my grandmother used to say, the only thing that likes change is a wet baby.
Oh, I knew. Did I not? I knew it was coming in here somewhere.
We're gonna all say that in chorus next time.
Well, it's true.
Okay, any further discussion? All right, Chair will entertain a motion to appoint a Community Redevelopment Agency Executive Director.
Mr. Chairman, seeing as I have people all looking at me. Mr. Chairman,
Yes, ma'am.
at this time, I'd like to make the motion that the CRA Board appoint Dr. Jeff Burton as our new Executive Director for all of the reasons that were stated during the discussion period.
There's a motion on the floor.
Second.
Motion is second. Any further discussion? All right, we'll start the vote. Board member by board member. Starting with Ms. Barnaby.
Yes.
Ms. Coker?
Yes.
Myself, yes.
Yes.
I'm gonna dissent because I want to give something a try, but, so I'm gonna say no.
Okay. Passes 4-1. Congratulations, Dr. Burton.
Chair?
Yes, ma'am.
The only other, thing that the board needs to figure out is with regards to contract negotiations. I don't know if you want to have discussions now as to start date, compensation, or if the board would like the chair to have those negotiations with Dr. Burton and then come back to the board with a proposed contract.
Okay. We can do that. In the past, I don't believe there was a contract for the CRA director.
Well, we would at least need to have the terms of start date and compensation ironed out, so we can do that now, or like I said, if you want to, if the board would like the chair to take on those responsibilities and at least come
Say,
back.
In the past, the chair has handled
Yeah,
that.
okay, right. And then it would come back to the board just for approval.
Okay. All right. Okay. We'll move on to 5B, the freebie local circulator.
Yes, so I think in October of last year, Freebie came in, gave a presentation in regards to microtransit. It's a service, it's kind of like an Uber, but it's a on-demand service for the residents within the CRAs to, get a ride. And so it was a little bit ago, and we have 2 new members, so we wanted to re-engage. We are in the process. We do have a framework for a contract. We need to discuss a couple more details before we can bring that contract to the board. and they're here now to give a presentation to you about those services.
Okay.
Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning, members of the board. My name is Claudia Miro. I am with Freebie. Offices at 371 Northwest 61st Street in Miami.
Welcome to Bradenton.
Well, thank you. We were actually here about a year ago as well, and beautiful, beautiful place. We just wanted to come and kind of give you, am I good?
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna pop this up for you, I guess.
That's my clicker.
Yeah. How do we do this again?
Maybe full screen. Okay.
I'm just gonna close and reopen. Hold on. Sorry. Technical fun things. How do we go to full screen? Share full screen. There we go. Sorry.
Sorry about that.
All right. Let me see. Yeah, okay, very good. Good morning once again. Claudia Miro for Freebie. Very happy to be here this morning. Just want to give you a high-level overview of Freebie, our services, how we function. As Mr. Munyer was saying, so Freebie is an on-demand service, so similar to rideshare, but it's public mobility. I have a presentation that I'm going to get right into. So just to give you an idea, again, Freebie is the future of public mobility. That is how we see Freebie, just physically moving people through free, on-demand, door-to-door transportation using a fully electric fleet. So think of it as your first mile, last mile, really connecting communities, really transforming communities into a place where you can live, work, play, and not really have the need of a personal vehicle. But beyond just being a transit solution that gets you from point A to point B, Freebie also is a very powerful economic development tool where we have the ability to drive traffic, physically drive traffic to the front doors of the local businesses there, within the CRA area. And then the other thing, the best thing about Freebie is that it's not a cookie cutter solution. It's fully customizable. We really work hand in hand with the cities that we serve to tailor a program where it makes sense for Bradenton so that we're providing a service the way that your community needs it, the way that your community moves. Again, fully customizable. We'll completely listen to what your needs are and then develop a program that works for you. And again, the best part about it is that it's electric. Moving on. So to give you an overview of our company, we have been around for almost 12 years, established in 2012, currently operating a fleet of over 150 vehicles in 35 cities here in the state of Florida. Freebie works in all kinds of communities, no matter how small or how large. We're in coastal communities, downtown communities, metropolitan, suburban communities. And if you look at the map here on the right, that kind of gives you a really good idea of what our footprint is here in the state of Florida. We are the largest provider of on-demand service in Florida. And like I was saying earlier, every single city operates a little bit differently than the next. And it's also important to note that every one of these cities that you see here on the map started off as a 12-month pilot project. We are happy and proud to say that every single one of those cities that have started as a pilot project is still with us today. So in 12 years, all the contracts that we have started are still in service. And that speaks to the fact that it's proven and that it works. We've also received a lot of recognitions in the community, namely Key to the City of Miami, Key to the City of Miami-Dade County, and that just speaks to our commitment to help communities and make them connected with reliable transit. So how does it work? Freebie is a combination of rideshare meets Yelp, where you're able to request a ride with just the touch of a button, but you're also connected to everything and anything that's happening right here in Bradenton through our mobile platform. So if you look at the center of the screen, that's what the app would look like when you open up your phone. You see that the center there where it says Realize Bradenton, that is a carousel that changes. You can promote local events that are happening here at the city. You can promote local shops, local restaurants. You can do surveying from here. So many things that you can do from this carousel. And if you see the banner on the bottom, Bradenton Blue Fest, you can also promote other local events that are happening here, connect to real-time apps for connecting to mass transit, so many different things. And again, just really focused on inspiring being here in your local community. This here that you see on your screen is an example of the different ways that we geofence. So the way that the service works with the technology is that we geofence the area of service. Every city does it differently. You have some cities that'll say, hey, we're gonna geofence the entire city. You have other cities that will focus on their downtown area or their CRA area. As a matter of fact, if you look here at the third screen, that is a CRA area, and the way that they decided to do their service and their geofencing is, if you see the darker shaded green that I'm pointing to, that darker shaded green is the CRA zone, and the lighter shaded green is the rest of the city. So the way that we're able to work with the technology is to make it so as long as you are starting or ending your ride within that CRA zone, it's a qualifiable ride. So you can go from the residential area into the CRA zone, or from the CRA zone out into the residential area, or move about freely as long as you are in the CRA. So if you're at this restaurant and you want to go to this shop in the CRA, it'll work for you as well. Those are some of the ideas just to give you an idea of how customizable the service is. I also like to talk about the city that we have down south in Florida. It's called Florida City. Florida City is one of the most underserved communities. But what's interesting about Florida City is that they are what you call an urban food desert, which means there are no grocery stores. Can you imagine living in a city where there's not a grocery store? So the way that we work with Florida City, and I'm just doing this to give you ideas of how we can customize, is we geofence all of Florida City, but then we go outside to the neighboring city and we have a geofence around the Publix there, around the community college, around the hospital, and around the train station. So this helps that community connect to the train to go out to work, connect to the supermarket to get their groceries, the hospital they have a need, and the train station as well. So all of these are different options that I wanted to highlight for you to put in your mind how you can customize the freebie service. Now, how to use the app? Super, super simple. As you'll see here in the first screen, you're gonna hit that green button and request your ride. In the second screen, you're gonna drop your PIN and select your location of destination. So the next, the third one, you're selecting your destination, and you can put something as simple as the address, or just type in Publix, and it'll give you, if you have several Publixes, let's say in the service area, it'll give you a drop down, or you can select from the categories section, and there's a drop down menu where you can see restaurants and bars as an option. You click on that and you'll have a drop down. You click on salons and grooming, points of interest, arts and entertainment, and all of that will come out. So that's that whole Yelp side of it that I was talking about, where you can just say, hey, I'm not sure where I want to go, and you know you're going to request a ride, and you can kind of just browse. And the businesses that you're browsing about on that section are those businesses that we're offering the free advertising for that I'll get into later. And then the last screen, how many passengers? If it's just you, you hit me. But this is also the section where you're going to select your accommodations. Do you need a wheelchair? Do you need a car seat, a booster chair? That's where you're going to say that. You hit confirm ride, and once you hit confirm ride, you are automatically connected to one of our drivers in real time. That means that you can communicate with them. You're going to get a message that's going to tell you, one, to confirm your ride, two, how many minutes away they are, if there's any rides ahead of you. All that information will be available to you. And the best part about this is that you're not waiting out in the sun and the heat and the rain. You're waiting at the place of business that you're patronizing, or if you're home, you're waiting at home. And then the other thing that I think is important to mention, say that you're someone who's a senior or is not tech savvy or doesn't have a smartphone, you can call our 800 number. You're going to be connected to our switchboard operator who's going to do the same function. Where are you? Where are you going? The car will be there in X amount of minutes. So that's the other way. And of course, also, if you see a freebie driving by, flag it down. They'll go ahead and pick you up as well. So some of the high-level benefits of having freebie in your community, number one, it transforms your community, like I was mentioning earlier, making it a place where you can live, work, and play, not have to need that personal vehicle. But it also, you are taking cars off the road, and when you take off cars off the road, you're reducing traffic, you're reducing the use of single occupancy vehicles, you're freeing up some of that limited parking availability that you might have in your community. And also, freebie acts as a feeder system to and from mass transit, that first and last mile I was talking about earlier. And then also a benefit is our community ambassadors. That's what we call our drivers. Think drivers drive, community ambassadors represent the community. They really become the face of the community, and they act as mobile concierge, rolling information desk on wheels, and I will talk about them again a little bit later. Economic development, huge. That ability to drive traffic to the front door of those local businesses that may be experiencing less business because there's limited parking availability, that no longer becomes an issue. And then sustainability. All our vehicles are 100% electric, so reducing carbon emissions is a big point also for our company. So again, I talked about first and last mile connectivity being, a feeder system into mass transit. Very, very important. We find that a lot more people would use mass transit if they didn't have to walk 2 or 3 blocks to that bus stop, to that trolley stop. When you have a freebie to take you there, maybe it's too hot, maybe it's raining, maybe you're a senior that might trip on the way over there. Freebie really helps increase that use of the mass transit as well in communities we have found. So again, acting as that feeder system, very important. And then, so question I get a lot is, who rides freebie? Everybody rides freebie. We are proud to say that we are the most equitable form of public transportation out there. We find that there's it doesn't matter what your socioeconomic background is, what your income is, it doesn't matter. We provide an equitable service, and what we find is that there's different people using the freebie at different times of the day. In the morning, you might have somebody taking a freebie, I don't know, to get to their minimum wage job, but by lunchtime, you have C-suite executives going to business meetings, business lunches. Seniors, big users of the freebie, go to the doctor, the pharmacy, the supermarket, and then you also have kids after they get out of school, right? Assuming that your service area includes a school, they use it to get home from school. My own son takes freebie home from school every single day for the last 3 years. And then you have tourists, even pets are allowed to ride the freebie. And this is just to show that we are committed to promoting unity and integrity among all the members of the community. I was telling you about our community ambassadors. These are our drivers. They really do become the face of the community. They are mobile concierge, rolling information desk on wheels. They have to know everything about Bradenton, what the restaurants are, if there's a new restaurant that opens, they have to know. Even if you are doing, let's say, an event activation. Let's say that you're having a 4th of July celebration or a backpack giveaway, right? School just started, and you want to hand out flyers. We will give those flyers to our drivers, and they'll hand out those little palm cards letting people know, really promoting the local events, any happenings that are happening here in Bradenton. But you know what? They also double over as neighborhood watch. They see something, they say something. These are drivers that are going around the same streets day in, day out. If something's out of place, it's going to stick out to them. They're going to see it. We work closely with your police department to report anything that may come up. And then it's important for you to know that we hold our drivers to the highest standards. We are considered public mobility, and because we are considered public transportation, we have to conform to FDOT's code 1490. What does that mean? That means that we're doing a deep dive on those background checks, not like some rideshare companies that just do over the top. Ours are level 2 background checks. We're doing health screenings, we're doing drug screenings, we're doing random drug testing. We even do sleep apnea studies so that when you get in a freebie, you know that you're getting in a safe ride with someone who's been background checked. And here's the other thing. It's going to be the same drivers. We make it a priority to hire from here, from Bradenton. And so not only do they know the area and are familiar with the area, but again, you're going to have the same drivers so that when you become an avid freebie rider, you're going to get to know their name, they're going to get to know your name, and that sense of community that every city longs for is created. Those bonds are created. Economic development. So the thing that really sets freebie apart from other transportation companies is the ability that we have to drive traffic to the different businesses. Now, not only are we taking you to the front doors of these businesses, but at the same time, we are offering free advertising through our mobile platform, free advertising for these businesses. And we understand that if a mobility company, if a transportation is going to be successful, it has to benefit everyone in the community. That's the residents, the workers, the visitors, knowing that they can come here and be able to move around easily at no cost to them. So again, we know that this is not just a quality of life issue for Bradenton, but it's also something that will be an important tool to help attract visitors, residents, businesses here to the area, because they know they don't have to worry about, oh, no one's going to come to my business because you can't move around, there's no parking, and all these other things. So a lot of high-level benefits with the economic development. I also have my colleague here who's our VP of Economic Development for Freebie. So I don't know if you want to jump in and say anything I missed?
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. I just want to point out the engagement and the outreach that we focus on. So, you roll out a community program. How do you get people to know about it? We take care of all of that. So all the marketing, we have a team. We hit the streets. We go door to door. We go into the restaurants, the hotels, the offices, the businesses, and we explain what the service is and all the different ways that they can benefit about it. Whether it's getting their employees to and from work, whether it's getting their tourists to roam around the town and have a great time and take advantage of everything that Bradenton has to offer, which in turn brings those visitors back more frequently, and they go home and they tell their friends about it. Getting people out to the restaurants to wine and dine, and maybe they had a couple drinks too many, now they have a safe way to get home. Also, it alleviates the need for pricey ride shares. So if somebody was going to spend $30 round trip on an Uber or a Lyft, we save them that money, and they in turn, we hope, will spend that money locally. So, you envision the future of Bradenton and all these restaurants opening and a grocery store, and that's going to draw more and more people, and that's fantastic. That's what we really want. But how do we do that without creating traffic problems and parking shortages? And Freebie is that solution. So it's a really great impact for all levels of the downtown community there. Thank you.
Thank you, John. So this is an example of how we offer free advertising to the local businesses. We help create a profile, and now, as John was mentioning, we have a team of economic development officers that goes door to door to each of these businesses, and this is what that profile will look like. On the home screen, they can do the carousel. Then here, the second screen here, like I mentioned to you earlier, that drop-down menu, they'll be featured there. And then the third screen shows you the profile for their business, the address, the phone number, and then the last screen is very interesting here. This is where they have the opportunity to offer freebie deals and discounts. So really an incentive to leave your car at home or just come and ride the freebie. If you come to my shop, I'll give you a 10% off, or if you come to my restaurant, I'll give you a free drink with entree, free dessert with entree. Again, incentives to get folks to ride the freebie. So these are, this is exactly how it is that we work with these businesses. And we found that a lot of success with that. And the reason we do that is, again, as John had mentioned, it's not just that they're offering an incentive, but it's really going to turn around and they're going to go ahead and they're going to share it with all their followers and say, hey, come to our restaurant. They're going to promote us, which is going to lead to increased ridership. And of course, increased ridership leads to less cost per rider. So here in the screen here, as I was mentioning earlier, every time we launch one of our services in any of the cities that we're in right now, always starts out as a 12-month pilot program. And this is low risk and low cost to the city, to CRA, because you're not having to buy the vehicles. We are 100% turnkey. We own the vehicles. We come in, we install charging stations. We hire the employees. We handle customer service. We have in-house mechanics. We do our wrap. Everything is turnkey. So all that you're really paying for is the actual hours of service, the on-demand service that you are choosing to offer for your area. That's all, the hours. Everything else we take care of. So here you'll see that we have come up with a few different pricing options, 48 hours, 56 hours, and 70 hours. This is a per vehicle cost. Obviously, when you think about pricing, there are a few things that we need to cover across the board. And the biggest one of those is insurance, right? So when you're looking here at our pricing, the more hours of service you do, the less your per hour cost is going to be. So no matter how you decide, which option you decide to go with, you can spread those hours however you like. So if you go with the 70-hour option, you can do 10 hours a day. We have other cities that'll come back and say they start off one way, but then they end up changing how they distribute those hours. And I'll give you an example. I had a city reach out to me and say, hey, Claudia, we are seeing that Sunday is really not a busy day. We're not having a lot of ridership. And so we're going to go ahead and turn around and take those hours and redistribute them to the other days of the week, start earlier, run later. And this is all possible because what the interesting thing about Freebie is the whole technology side, right? The data. So we will provide you with a live dashboard where you're going to be able to see what is happening. You can see how is everybody, how many people have taken the Freebie today so far? What is, how many people are currently waiting for a freebie right this minute? And what does that average wait time look like? Having that information at your fingertips in real time is going to help you make decisions and say, you know what, how are they moving? And even if you don't go in there and look at it, we're going to send you a report the first week of every month of what happened so that you can say, how is my community moving? How can I really just tailor the program to offer it when they need it the most? So now you're not just guessing, you're actually making decisions based on the data that is provided, the data that we collect. You can see the age demographic of who's riding and when, and really just, again, tailor your program. So it doesn't matter which amount of hours you decide to go with. Once you choose that number, you can move it around however it is you like. If you want to offer it 7 days a week, 5 days a week, whatever works best for your community. And so that basically concludes our presentation, but I know that you're probably going to have questions, and I am definitely ready to take any of your questions, or my colleague John as well. Please let us know how we can help.
I'll start. You mentioned, I like the idea of the service. I believe the ride-sharing apps, the more popular ones, do have minimum age restrictions. Do you all have a minimum age restriction?
So as I was mentioning, we're highly customizable. We have cities that don't have age restrictions, and we have cities that have maybe started off without one and then decided that it worked better for them. I'll give you an example. City of Aventura, they started off with their age restriction was 13 years of age, and then they saw that the kids were basically running away with the program, and they really wanted to serve a different demographic. So they raised it to 18. So you can decide that. You can go as, you can do the same thing. Start, kind of get a feel for it, and if you feel that it's not working, you can tweak it.
Okay. If you pick me up at, let's just say 9th and 9th, one of the intersections in the middle of everything, and I'm coming downtown, but then you have somebody a couple blocks away that's on that same route coming to the same area, are you going to stop and pick them up as well?
Thank you for asking. That is a great question. So, like I was mentioning, the technology with this is very, very cool. We have proprietary algorithms, and the algorithm is gonna figure that out. So if it makes sense to pick you up, pick somebody else up, right? It is rideshare, so if it makes sense to pick them up, but you can also make it so that you can say, I want to make sure that this person is not in the car longer than 5 minutes, longer than 10 minutes, so that it's not just getting you from point A to point B, it's also the experience, right? That's what's going to get people riding it. That's what's going to get people moving along. So it'll do it if it makes sense, if it's not going to keep you in the car too long, and if it's on the way. It's not going to take you, for a tour of Bradenton, just to pool rides. Mm-hmm.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I was here when, I'm very excited about this. I thought it was more of a circulator than an on-demand before, but I also was kind of thinking that we were getting a contract. I thought we were farther along than just the presentation. I've been asking for 6 months when it was coming, so I'm just curious, are we starting again, or what?
No,
This is not for you, but.
So we have a framework of the contract. In order to finish up, we need a few details, and having them come and give a presentation, a fresh presentation, and answering like how many cars did we want, and and the pricing and things like that. That way we can incorporate that within the contract. There's a couple other little details we have to finish up, but then after that we'll have the contract ready.
Okay, because I am anxious to get this going. I think it's going to be key that it be going before season this year, especially with our new water taxi opening up that'll connect the island, I see this as a real key for downtown. I love the idea of any trip that starts in the CRA so that it gives our Bradenton residents that aren't in CRAs an opportunity, and I think it'll help bring people down to the CRAs, but it might be something that we have to add on, start with just CRA in the beginning. I don't know. I would trust y'all's insight on that. But I was hoping to have a circulator, but maybe the on-demand,
I'll tell you, ever since rideshare broke into the market years ago, folks really like that whole door-to-door service. On demand, when I need it, to the front door of where I am, to the front door where I'm getting to, rather than having to walk to a bus stop or a trolley stop or a circulator stop, wait there in the sun and the rain. This is Florida, right? So this has really worked in all the other communities that we serve. Your ridership is up. When you compare it to the kind of ridership that circulators are seeing, it blows it out of the water. The on-demand door-to-door, it's the future of public mobility. It really is.
okay, well, I'm very anxious to get this going.
Yes, ma'am.
Refresh my memory, and this is mainly to Mr. Mignon. Had we thought about how many cars we would need? Were we at that level?
I think originally, we had talked about 2 cars, but the recommendation is at least 3 cars. That's what I got from them as far as that, to start that pilot program. And it makes sense because you don't want ride times to be, 20, 30 minutes and then people not use the service. And so it kind of rolls out we want to be successful.
Did we also kind of look at a particular time, the 70 hours or 56 or 48? Did we get that far?
From what I remember, what I recall, is that we had talked about doing, I think, 48 hours, and we were looking at possibly doing Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, because those were the high weekend days. However, I don't think that was quite determined.
I think we were gonna try to be flexible and see how it went.
Right,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah, it's coming back. Yay.
Yes, ma'am.
I have a few questions, so anybody, and you can feel free to jump in.
Thank you.
On more to her question, so I'm reading this correctly, we're talking about how we want to combine hours and vehicles. The fee per vehicle is per vehicle, so the fee for our 12-month period, if we did the recommendation for 3 cars, would be $98,239 times 3.
Correct.
Plus our hours, okay. And then, so I just wanted to confirm, so it's okay, and I don't know if it's a question for legal, it's okay to leave the CRA, and I'm thinking from an aspect of dollar expenditure, it's okay to, stay in your, is it in the plan, is it in the area? It's okay for us to leave, so it's start or end in the CRA. I was operating under the assumption that it was start and end in the CRA.
So to answer your question, yes, so let me provide some clarification. I believe that what we were discussing is to start off small, just within the CRA area, but I did want to provide options so that you can look to the future of how other CRAs are using it. So yes, right now what we're talking about is it'll be starting and ending in the CRA area, all those 3 CRA zones combined, right? But again, giving you that vision to the future that, once you see the program is successful, you can expand and say, okay, now we want to bring people from the neighborhoods, the residences, into the CRA, and then you can change the rule. The technology will allow you to do that. But for right now, I know what you are considering is starting off small, keeping it to the CRA area, starting and ending in the CRA area, and making sure that that program is successful so that you can have an expansion in the future.
Is it okay? Is it legal for us to spend, I'm thinking for the future, because I'm
It's a
hoping.
qualifiable expense, if that's what you're asking. Yes, it's a qualifiable expense. We have 4 other CRA areas that we work with, and it's qualifiable whether you do it just within the CRA or if you do it starting or ending in the CRA.
Okay, great. Um,
sorry.
no, go ahead.
No,
I have one more question, but
Go
it's not
ahead.
related to that, so if you want to piggyback,
I
if it's
just, I
okay with
just
Chair.
wanted to say, well, we have 3 CRAs in our CRA. And if it, I don't know how we were considering paying for this, if it was going to be equally among the CRAs, or if it looks like 2 CRAs are using it, or 1 CRA is using it more than the other, then is it fair for one of the
I
CRAs?
think that's something we would have to
That's something-
determine, and
Yeah.
I don't know what.
I just wanted to put that out there
I think it would be
to,
skewed based on,
Count
really,
imaginations.
Where they
if
start.
it's all within CRA, it's gonna be who within the CRA is using it. Because if it's outside the CRA, it's potentially everybody,
yeah,
as long as they're within the city.
but if it's,
But if you narrow it to just within the CRA, then it's gonna be, you may
I
not get
think,
that.
And that's the whole point of your pilot. I want to just
Yeah.
chime in that you're going to be able to see that data. We also have, as part of that dashboard, heat maps. Where's everybody coming from? Where's everybody going to? You're going to be able to see the heat maps of where those high concentration of numbers of riders is coming from. Again, to help you make those decisions, knowing that you don't have to wait to the end of the 12th month to make a tweak. You can call me at 2 months and say, hey, we're going to tweak this. We're going to do it this way or that way. Again, providing the service that is designed the way that your community is using it.
I just had one other quick one, which
Okay.
was, how do you deal with gratuity? Is it something that is a function of the app, or people, my concern is that people would feel pressure to do.
Great question. Great question. Thank you for asking that. So, our drivers do not, they're allowed to accept tips. So if somebody wants to give them a tip for great service, definitely we want drivers. I mean, it's no secret that across the transportation industry, it's been a struggle to keep drivers. So we want them to they make a living wage, but we want them. And by the way, I forgot to mention this earlier. Freebie drivers are 100% freebie employees. They're W-2 employees. They're not independent contractors. All right. If they work full time for us, they get health benefits. So again, they make a living wage. We want them to make as much money as possible. So if somebody wants to give them a tip for good service, it's allowed. What we don't allow is soliciting for tips, and we do not allow for them to have a tip jar in the vehicle. So if somebody wants to say, hey, here's a couple of bucks, thank you so much, that's great. They can accept it. But again, it's not something that they're asking for or pressuring, like you said, a rider. We want them to have a good experience, and we really focus on hiring drivers who are like outgoing. Again, really focusing on the experience, because that experience is what's going to make them say, "I'm going to ride the freebie again, and again, and again."
Great, yeah. My concern was that if I love the freebie, but I just don't happen to have a $5 bill on me, that people then would say, I'm not going to use it.
You're a generous tipper. $5. Wow.
My husband would say, you're one of the leading causes of inflation, Mike.
Yes, ma'am?
Yeah, I know we talked about going to 3 vehicles, which as many vehicles as we can afford, but I don't know if we can afford 3 vehicles. I mean, has that been discussed? Did we budget that much for it?
I budgeted at this moment, we can adjust because we're coming on the new budget fiscal year. So I budgeted for what is it? 2 cars at the 48 hours. So it was, I think, around 56,000 per, because I think the thing you want to do is you want to, divide it between the
Yeah.
3, and then we'll figure out later on and make any adjustments that are needed based on, the analytics that are provided. So that's what I had based it on for this fiscal year, for this next fiscal year. However, they had, mentioned that it may be better to have a 3 vehicle, since, we have the 3 CRAs and the timing and all that kind of stuff, so that's
Do
kind of where we
do
were.
all the CRAs have enough money to cover that?
I believe so, yeah.
yes, we do.
Okay.
I wanted to chime in also and just say the importance of starting the service out right. We have, we're experts in our field, and when I was talking about that technology, I should have also mentioned to you that our algorithms will do a simulator and look at the area, consider the density, consider the population, consider all those things, peak times, and then come up with a recommendation. And at this time, our recommendation, in order for you to start off with a service that is successful, we are recommending 3 vehicles. I wanted to kind of put that on the record because We have made recommendations in the past, and the city has gone against our recommendation because of funding limitations or what have you. And then they've only to come back and say, oh my goodness, we have to scramble and find the funding and add another vehicle. You want to start off with a service that is successful. You want to have high ridership numbers. So that's why we recommend, yes, starting within just the CRA area to start small. But you want to be able to keep those wait times down. If you don't have enough vehicles, your wait times are going to go up. And that's going to turn off riders from using the service. So, the amount of money that you're allocating, is it really being well used? Because it's not going to have the ridership that it needs. So I would just want to stress out that point of starting off, strong, where you have a successful program. And then I don't know if you all are familiar. Once you start your program, you can next year have an opportunity to apply for some grants that are available. The Florida Department of Transportation, FDOT, has this beautiful grant. It's called the Public Transit Service Development Grant. And I mention it because the majority of our cities take advantage of this grant. And what that grant offers, it pays for 50% of the total cost of the freebie for the first 3 years. So that's why I encourage you, start your program off small, start it off where you're going to be successful. The grant applications open in the spring. So next year in May, grant applications open. They let you know if you've received the award by Halloween. And then since the state's fiscal year starts July 1 of the following year, so think of it this way. Start your program now. Next year, when the spring comes, you apply for your grant. They notify you in October. If you are awarded that grant, and all of our CRAs that have applied have gotten them, you're awarded that grant, you're going to get that funding for July of 2025. That funding comes in, and it takes care of 50%. And at that point, when you're applying for the grant, you can choose to expand your program, do the inner zone, outer zone that we were talking about, add another vehicle. And then, so the question is, well, what happens after the 3 years are up? Right? I know that's what you're thinking. So what happens after 3 years are up? The way that FDOT works with this grant is if you modify your program, either because you're adding more hours or you're expanding the service area to that outer zone we were talking about, or you're adding a vehicle, FDOT considers that a modification. So that allows you to apply for 3 more years. I just want to put that there so that you can, I want to give you all the information so that you're not just considering what you're doing today, but also having the vision to see what you can do with this program in the future, tomorrow.
I'm sorry, ma'am. Yes, my apologies. I kept looking right. My neck hurts.
Okay. I'm glad that you said that we need to recognize that you all are the experts, and if we want it to be successful, we need to not micromanage this and listen to what you're saying to us. I had 2 questions. One is, we're lucky enough in this town that we have Major League Baseball spring training. Those games, that it's end of February through almost the end of March, they can be Monday or Tuesday or Saturday or Sunday with advance notice, so you know that every February, every March, we've got this situation. Can we change the hours so that it works to be able to accommodate a major event like?
I'm so excited to answer your question. So yes, we do event activations. In fact, this is kind of where I was going earlier when I was talking to you about backpack giveaways and 4th of July. I mean, 4th of July just happened. I had so many cities calling me and saying, hey, on 4th of July, because we're doing our fireworks at this park, can you make it so that that day from this hour to that hour, we're just gonna run freebie from this parking garage to the park and back? So you let us know. We already know that it's in February to March, so we can plan for this. We'll put a message up on the app so that those avid freebie riders know what to expect, and they know, there's going to be folks that are going to rely on the freebie for XYZ reasons. So we put that message up on the app to let them, kind of manage their expectations and kind of make other arrangements or whatnot. And that day, those days, we can certainly change it so that it's exclusive to handle the traffic that is created for that spring training event.
That's wonderful. I have to say, I was very excited when you all came in before. I thought we were working on a contract. I thought we were going to have it available last spring training. And when that did not happen, I was not happy. I see this as something that can help take the city kind of to the next level. It's hip, it's cool. You know, the old people like me are going to like it because, you know, it's door to door and I won't bust a hip walking to the bus stop. Oh, come on, there has been so many jokes made about my age over the past 3 months. I just can't help myself.
Not on this board, ma'am.
That's a different board.
Okay, well, but just looking at the geofence that you have set up now, I would see that, for example, let me do it this way. You see this little protrusion right here,
Yeah.
this peninsula that sits, that's Point Pleasant. I would think that there would be a lot of people in Point Pleasant that would want to go to the ball game, want to go to Blues Fest.
I agree.
So, yes.
We can
the
do
chair-
that.
The chair lives in Point Pleasant, but,
There's a lot of people in Village Green that'll want to
There
as
you go.
well, but.
so, and then you've got, Wears Creek coming in there, and I live across the creek there. And I could see me, let me just say this, when I served on the MPO, and the MPO at that time met down by the Sarasota Airport at New College. I was on a committee that met at 8 o'clock, and then the MPO meeting started at 9 o'clock. You would think that someone that served on the Metropolitan Planning Organization Board, whose entire focus and function was to provide funding or secure and divvy up the funding for all transportation areas, could figure out how to get from Bradenton to the meeting on mass transit. The way that it was set up, even if I was at the bus stop at 6 a.m., I was not going to be there on time for my 8 o'clock meeting. If we didn't have the 8 o'clock meeting, I might be able to make it to the 9 o'clock meeting because of the head times that they had with mass transit. Drove me nuts. I see this as something that everybody's going to want to do. When my kids were little, we would have multimodal tours. I know that sounds like very geeky, but if you knew my husband, you'd understand. You know, where we would take the train and take the rickshaw or whatever it was in the towns that we were at, the pedal cabs, I'm sorry. And our kids loved it. I think every kid in Bradenton's going to want to ride this thing. And they're going to bring their parents because we're going to make them.
And let me just say that, you know, some cities will ask us, well, how many months before we establish our ridership? By week 2 or 3, your ridership is established. You know, it's kind of like when you have an event, you offer free food, everybody shows up, you're offering free rides. The riders are going to show up.
Yes, ma'am.
My question about the special events time, if we have 3 cars and special events times, we're gonna focus on, you know, going outside of CRA to bring people into the ballpark, because chances are they're gonna be coming outside of the CRA, then what happens to our membership or riders in the CRA on those given days? Do we just say, okay, you're on your own, or
Oh,
can we add, you know, like temporarily add cars? I mean, is it?
I was not
flexible?
saying that initially that we were going to go outside of the CRA and bring people to the ballpark. I see, and I have seen on occasion, people walking from downtown to the ballpark. They're staying at either of the 3 hotels that we have, and you know, they walk down there. That's what I see.
I get that then, okay, because I'm thinking about all the people that drive and park all along the street and so forth, that aren't coming from close by, you know, but yet they're still residents.
And you can decide, you know, you can say, I'm going to use 2 of our cars to do that, and 1 car we're going to keep in here to keep it like, yeah, flexible. And then you asked about adding cars. I think that if we have enough time in advance, we'll work with you and see if that's possible, depending on, you know, how many cars, how often. You know, we can look into that. I don't like to say no. We always like to work and customize and tailor and really just help as much as we can.
At least during that time, we might need
Correct.
them, but may not need them after that.
Yeah, mm-hmm.
Spring game is- All right, thanks.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
I had,
I'm sorry, my colleague was reminding me about something about our vehicles, that they're wrapped. And as you can see, kind of, I don't know, let me see if I have another screen here that kind of shows you. You see the vehicles, how they're, this is one of them, but I'm trying to find a Tesla here. Where is it? I don't see one. But anyway, we wrap the vehicles ourselves in-house. So this is another opportunity. I don't know if I was mentioned with the funding. It was probably mentioned in the first presentation, because we'll wrap the vehicle with your branding, if you will. But there's also the opportunity, if you want to wrap them and let us sell advertising, because it is going in the CRA area. If you want to sell advertising, what we do is we do a revenue share with the city. That's a 50-50 split. So every dollar of revenue that comes in, we turn around and give 50% back to you, which helps lower your cost. So all of that is done in-house. Did you want to say anything else on that?
No, I just-
Okay. Yeah. That page was out. I'm sorry, go ahead. You're asking me.
well, to that point, and hopefully I won't forget my original question. That 50-50 split, do you do all that negotiating with the businesses that want to advertise on the free?
So yeah, we have a whole arm of our business that is just advertising sales, and so they'll go out and sell to the community. And let me tell you, it's not just necessarily the community where you have like your realtors or your restaurants, whatever. We just finished a campaign a month ago with Pepsi Zero, and we started one right after we finished with Coke. So you have a lot of national businesses that'll come and they'll say, hey, we want to target Bradenton. There's a big tourist spring season and all that. So the cars can be wrapped that way. Mm-hmm.
And then I was just going to mention for our benefit, for making decisions, as far as age restrictions go, I think, I don't know, I have teenagers. I think that teenagers would use it. And I can appreciate any safety concerns, but with the background checks and some reassurances, I think that maybe an appropriate age would be like, I want to say 15 because I have a 15-year-old and I know he would love this, but 16 maybe.
I was going to say 12.
Okay, great.
I mean, because here's the thing, to me, with children, you set the bar, you say, this is how you're going to, and I think you could train your drivers so that if something hey, the city said that 12 and above can ride. If you guys screw around in this thing, they're gonna change it.
Right, that's a good point.
You guys, if you start doing something inappropriate, you throw something out, whatever.
To add to your point, the same way that you have the ability to rate our drivers have the ability to rate our passengers. So if you have a passenger who is unruly or, whatever it is, they get a rating, and if they get, 2 or 3 of them, then they get a warning saying that, if this persists, then they can't, their account is basically frozen. So we do look into those. It has, it does happen, especially in the areas where we have bars, if somebody just doesn't act the way they have to, and it is a persistent situation. So you can try it out. You can try it out at 12. You can start out at 15 and kind of wait and see how that goes. And if you feel that, the feedback is that we're getting a lot of, we're having issues with the age, then you can change it. You're not married to anything here, which is great. Mm-hmm. You can change it as you go. I like to emphasize that because it gives you that freedom. I'll tell you that in my city where I live, my son started riding it at 12. He's 15 now. And it's great because, oh my goodness, I live in a zone where there's a supermarket, so just run to the supermarket for me and come back.
And all riders would have to.
You look very young for that.
Oh my goodness, we're new best friends over here.
All riders would have to have a cell phone.
Huh?
So
No, well, like I mentioned, no, you can have, like my mom, she doesn't care for a smartphone, she calls in. You have the switchboard, so you can either do it on the app, but if you're not tech savvy or don't have a smartphone, you call the switchboard. Or again, if you're a tourist and you happen to see it and you flag it down, you can get on. Our drivers have the ability to track that information for ridership numbers and track it as a flag down as well. Yeah.
And then just one other final thing for our purposes, I'm going to guess, but that's actually the last question I have for you, that people that live near downtown are potentially going to want to leave for that grocery store, and people outside of it are going to want to come into the areas for the ball game or the downtown. So as far as geofencing goes, I just put that in our heads. But then my last question is relating to that. So am I understanding you correctly that your recommendation is based on you actually looking at our area specifically?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes, correct. And then just to also kind of put it out there, we don't charge for expanding a geofence. We don't charge for that. The only thing, like I said, is there's a caveat. When you expand a geofence, you're going to affect your level of service, which is your wait time. So, but let's say that you have, you know, and I've done this before. I have communities where the geofence is this, and right outside of their actual city, there's a Walmart or a Publix or something. You can actually just geofence that Publix so that none of the rides in between are going to be allowable. It's going to be just within the CRA and to that specific store. You can do that as well. You know, again, my recommendation is you start small, let you get the feedback, because you're going to get the feedback. We're going to get the feedback. Hey, why don't you have this added there? Or I'd like to take it to this, or I'd like to take it to that. I had a city who started with a service on the east and then a service on the west. And then calls came pouring into us. Please connect the services. Please to the mayor. Please connect we want to go from east to west. And then they connected east to west. And then today they operate the entire city. So it grows. These are things, again, that you can look forward to. But again, my recommendation is start small, let it be successful. And then you know how you're going to expand, because you're going to have that feedback. And just really set yourself up for a really successful program your first year.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, ma'am.
At this point in time, after the presentation, I would like to make a motion that we instruct staff to work on a contract to get back to us promptly. And I'm gonna throw this out and y'all tell me what you think. I would like to have the 3 vehicles. I'd like to start with the 56 hours at the 108,000 annually, because I think what's going to happen is if we start this, then people are going to want it. And I would like to start it at a level that I think is going to ensure that we're successful, rather than scrambling after the fact. I'd rather be proactive than reactive.
Motion on the floor to instruct CRA staff to move forward
I'll
negotiating
second it.
a contract for 56 hours.
I'll second
And a
it.
second. Any further discussion?
Are we,
I have discussion. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
before we actually do this, are we gonna look at how each CRA can pay for this? I mean, can
Yes, I'll
this-
take a look at the budget for that
Okay.
before we bring it back.
And was that your recommendation, the 56? I mean, would you say that we're starting at the right place?
I think so. I think that you're being savvy and looking ahead and just saying, because I have had that happen where we've started with not enough hours and then we have to go back and you have to revisit the contract, you have to vote on it again. So this way you have the amount of hours that you need to be flexible and just allocate them however you see fit. You've got more hours to work with, right? So I think this is great, the 3-vehicle recommendation, and starting off in a healthy amount of hours per week.
One more question. Okay, since we're all here in the room, and I've been told, it seems like for quite a few months that we were waiting on a contract from you guys, what is it gonna take to get us up and running?
Wonderful question. So, like I was explaining earlier that we're 100% turnkey, what we ask for is a place, right, where our vehicles are gonna live. We will pull those permits for the charging stations. So that, I think, is the longest process. So as long as we have, we can get the charging stations up and running. Usually, it's about 60 days to 90 days from contract signing. So keep that in mind when moving the contract along. 60 to 90 days from contract signing, we could probably be closer to that 60-day mark, just to get, obviously we have to put out hiring for the drivers locally. And again, the charging stations, the permits on that is probably what takes the longest in the process.
Yeah, who bears the cost of those charging stations?
We do.
Okay.
Chair, just a suggestion so that when the contract comes back to you, it has hopefully all of the terms that you have discussed today. Do we also want to address the operation, the days, or confirm that you do want the Thursday through Sunday? And do we want to address an age limit? I don't know if those are, I don't have the contract in front of me, and I can't recall if those need to be in the contract, but just suggestions so that when it comes back to you, it's almost ready to go.
That's something you can change, so I don't think that needs to be in the contract. You can decide the days of the week and change it back and forth. It's the hours that you need to marry, how many hours you're gonna have, 56 hours. How you do it from then on out, that's completely up to you. Doesn't need to come back to commission or any of that.
Okay, fair enough. I've looked at the contract, but I couldn't remember if those were terms that were specifically in it, so.
And with the understanding that we will accommodate spring training, I think that's a very big part of our season here, and so we want to make sure we try to accommodate that.
Okay, yeah, absolutely. And one of the things that we didn't mention is that, again, you're gonna get those 3 Teslas and an ADA van that is going to serve those who need wheelchair accessibility. So, that you understand.
I had one thing. Do you guys have a recommendation on what hours we should start with? Does the board have, like, during the day from what time to what time? Does anybody?
I'll defer to them. They probably know better.
I'm wondering if we might be able to work with the city and put out on our website and social media a survey asking primarily, because if you've got people that work at the hospital but live over here, would they want it? Hospital does 7 to 7. A lot of the medical staff. So would we want to wait and find out and see, would maybe check with Manatee Memorial and see how many people live in the immediate area that might be able to use it? Because that is a large employer.
You also would be good speaking to the businesses. I know we have a city that, they stop their service at 10 because their restaurants close at 9, but it didn't end up being enough time to let people actually finish dinner, getting the bill, and they kind of felt rushed. So you kind of want to factor in all those things. We can definitely take a look at that for you. Look at also if there's any mass transit that it would affect. Some communities mirror their mass transit so that it does serve as your first and last mile. A couple of factors we look into. We're happy to look into that and make a recommendation more closer to that.
Well, if we can get recommendations from you all, the contract has to come back for us to approve it. Perhaps that information could be fleshed out at that meeting.
Okay.
And if I'm understanding correctly, it can be changed
Yes.
throughout. So it's almost, is it even part of the contract?
No, not really. I mean, you can change that. So again, we can make a decision based on all these factors and say, hey, let's go ahead and do it from this time to that time. But then you're going to see how it actually works, right? How people are actually using it, what the feedback is, et cetera, and tweak it. So it doesn't have to be, again, that's something you're going to decide, and you can change 10 times if you want.
I would just suggest that while maybe it's not a contractual term, these ideas are fleshed out though, so that everyone's on the same page for when this program is rolled out. So sounds like maybe we'd be following the recommendations of, with the understanding that we can always change, but at the meeting when the contract comes back, I do think it's appropriate, like Councilwoman Barnaby indicated, Board Member Barnaby, I forgot which meeting I was in, that at least we those are fleshed out so that everyone's
have an
starting on the same
understanding.
page. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, we'll be happy to come back with that and make sure you have it.
I have just one last question,
Go ahead.
I think. The hourly rate, so if we have 56 hours, that's what you guys will promise to give to us, but do we actually pay for all 56 hours if it's not used? Or is it just you're tracking how much it's used?
We've never had a situation where our freebies sit around. So yeah, 56 hours of service, and again, because I mentioned the flag downs, they're always going up the highest used area up and down your downtown, and just making sure that they're visible and available for folks. But I've never had a situation where we've had a freebie idle waiting with no rides. It just doesn't happen.
Got it.
Okay. Any further discussion? Okay, we'll have a vote. All in favor of the motion as made by Mrs. Barnaby and seconded by Councilwoman Coker, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you all for coming.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, ma'am.
looking at our agenda, which now just went black on my screen. I know that we have some individuals here that we wanted to speak with and recognize that have some major responsibilities with our downtown, and I'm wondering if we could pull Mr. Moore and his group up next, rather than,
That's fine. What item is that specifically?
well, I would tell you, but my screen just went black, and I don't have a paper copy.
6B, it'd be 6B.
6B, okay. Please come up, sir. We're going to skip forward to the Bradenton CRA, item 6B on the agenda.
Let me get.
Good morning, board members. My name is James Boda. I'm the Clean City Coordinator with the City of Bradenton. And last year, I was asked to assemble a team for the downtown maintenance. In February of this year, we started the DAT team, Downtown Action Team. And if you will, I would like to introduce them to you. Let me get this going.
That's the second one, KK. There you go. Up.
No, the next one. Left-handed. Here you go. Right. And so again, I would like to introduce my Downtown Action Team to you. And here they are. Up first, Ally Stowe. Come on up. They don't bite, I promise you.
Not hard.
So this is Allison Stowe. And next is Sierra Nelson. And Sierra Nelson is the proud owner and winner of Councilor Bonnerby's cherry pie.
Oh, apple
Oh,
pie.
apple pie. Oh, it's apple pie. Okay. So they are the backbone. Everything that you've seen out there in the downtown corridor, they have done. They're just amazing in this heat. They're out there. They're working. They call me up and ask me, I know we're only allowed a break in the morning and a break in the afternoon. I said, absolutely not. Get some water, find some shade, and keep going along. They're just wonderful. If I was to tell them to move City Hall to across the river, I could come in the morning and there they were. They'll be digging out City Hall and moving it to across the river. So they're just amazing. And I know you are asking yourselves that you have approved 5 positions. We're experiencing what the rest of the city is and what the rest of the country is going through, is trying to get people to come to work for us. We're paying good. We're really paying good, but I had a fellow start work 3 days and never showed up. I had a guy go through all of the HR stuff and all that, expected to start on Monday. No call, no show. It is so tough. I've called and interviewed 25, 30 people already, and but we're trying. We're trying to get them help, but they're doing a great job. And I just wanted to introduce them to you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, now get back,
Thank you for all you're doing.
get back to her. So from Baccarat to the 3rd Avenue, there are many things going on in this area. Phase 1 of planting is one of them. We planted over 300 native plants in Phase 1. First thing we had to do, Phase 1, we had to go and replace all the plants and the flowers that have died off, all those empty spaces out there. We replaced them with the existing flowers that were out there. And then after that, then we came back and we planted flowers, ground covers, both annuals and perennials. And if you don't mind, I'm going to bring up Dean Jones, who is the Deputy Director of Public Works. He's the person I go to. He's the person with the green thumb. I have a brown thumb, and that doesn't work too good when it's planting flowers.
No.
So Dean will talk about the type of flowers in Phase 1 that we planted and why we planted these flowers. Go, Dean.
Good morning, board members. And by the way, you look stunning today, and you look so young. So I just wanted to put that out there.
What about the rest of us?
The
Yeah.
rest of you look
I'm the
amazing.
same age.
But I just wanted to get that out there.
Let's get on with it.
Good morning. I'm Dean Jones. I'm the Assistant Director for Public Works and Utilities. I got a bit of a green thumb. I kind of cut my teeth on landscaping with a in native plants, and I love native plants. So when James asked me to come aboard and give some advice, I was thrilled to do it. Some of the things that we did in phase one is Florida native plants. We planted porterweed. Can I get over there? All right, porterweed is a ground cover. It puts out a beautiful little purple flower, and it's just stunning to look at. It moves quickly. So where we planted it, you're going to see some nice ground cover come up. The next thing we planted was some vinca or periwinkle. Very beautiful plant, very hardy. There's some that was growing wild, so it inspired me to get some more and put it in some different places. You can see it out front here of City Hall. The next thing we planted was Blew Me Away. It's a dwarf begonia, and it's a beautiful little plant. We're going to be trimming some of these today, and I'm also giving Allie and Sierra some tips on how to trim the periwinkle and the other plants out there to keep them blooming, keep them going. This is a beautiful little plant that we did. This is a morning primrose. It's also native, and these plants, the thing about these plants is they're viable, they're tough, they have color in them, they can handle the heat, and as far as irrigation, once they get established, we can cut the water way down, if not off, because we're using potable water right now to irrigate these, so we're going to save money and water by using these type of plants. Now in phase two that James is going to talk about, we're going to have some different plants. They're going to have a lot of color, and it's still going to serve the purpose because these are also Florida natives. These are called pentas. They're some of my favorite flowers. They're just good, they're hardy, they come in different colors, and we can put them pretty much anywhere, and you don't have to dig down very far to do these because you're not going to disturb any of the utilities, anything under the ground.
And they're butterfly attractors.
They're butterfly attract, very good. You're coming right to my next point. The other thing about using these plants, these native plants, like the beautyberry right here, birds love them. Birds will be all over them all the time. Plus, they're very fragrant plants, and they put off a fragrance that I really enjoy. The leaves are very soft and feathery, and so they're just really nice plants, and they're super hardy. You cut them back, and they come right back up. One of my favorite plants is the mimosa. You can't drink it, but it is pretty. So it's also a ground cover. It puts out this little flower that looks like Dr. Seuss, Horton, Here's a Who. And so it's just really a cute plant, and it's super hardy. I have some in my yard. My lawn guy tried to kill it. He was not successful, and so I have it, it's just really nice. The last thing is called a cross vine. Now, we all know that dark alley up there on 12th, the one you take a right, and it's really dark in there. There's some planters in there. I've done some research, and I spoke with Sweet Bay out in Parrish, and they recommend this. We're going to put this on a trellis and put it in those planters, and this will have a lot of color, and that dark alleyway will come to life. Nice. So thank you for your time, and I'll give it back to James.
Oh, nice. Thank you, Dean. So what you're looking at, the two individuals that I introduced you, they're responsible for what is going on in here. So let me go back. We kind of jumped ahead. Okay. So these are some before and afters. Chris asked for some before and after pictures. So these are some of the plants that we planted. The planters, we only started in phase one doing the planters, but Counselor wanted to keep on going down. So that's what we did. We went all the way up Main Street and planted these flowers in the planters. As you can see here is just all the growth on one of the parking structures, nothing trimmed. Now everything is trimmed, everything is gone. Right here in front of City Hall, it's all been cleaned up, and this is where I'm tapping into Dean also. Dean has coming up with something on how to plant something in front of City Hall here, but not to obstruct this beautiful hedge. So we're working on doing that. These are the medians. Martin Luther King, all those medians. Now we're trimming it. Just doesn't look like just one big hedge, so we're trimming them all. Another thing is refinishing. This is the before and after bench. Trash cans that have weathered, and once a year we go out and then we'll refinish them. I know some new trash cans are coming in so I'll make it look better. And when you walk out there, look at the little things that these employees are doing. Every single fire hydrant has been painted. Electrical boxes don't look good, we painted them. This is in front of the parking garage. It looks really, really good. It looks clean, it makes the area look clean. Here's some water lines. We're going out and painting. And this right here, which you see on back of the sign, I consider that graffiti. I promise you, if you walk in the corridor area, you will not see any graffiti. You won't see stickers on fences, stickers on back of the signs, nothing. We eradicated everything. All your gum on the floor is gone. So this is funny here. If you were to go from 12th to 13th, 14th, and 15th Street back a month ago, longer, we had curbs in that area, and you would have never known. We discovered that you had curbs, so now we are trimming. These two are going. They're trimming this whole area, and in this curb, there are like red, no parking zones. We'll paint the red on there, we'll paint the yellow on there, or the blue of it is handicap. Another thing is the sprinklers. So what we discovered is that by the time, and this only pretty much happens on the weekends, they decide that they want to step on our sprinklers and break them. So by the time we would do a work order, by the time the work order is circulated, by the time they get a crew out there, that's a couple of days. So now water is just spewing all over the place, and it wet cars and people, and we said, no, that is just taking too long, unacceptable. So we started replacing our sprinklers. So now every sprinkler downtown, within 24 hours, will be replaced. It won't be going all over the place, so that's another thing that they're doing. Councilor Barnaby had asked that she wanted a structure to go around a tree so we could put flowers on and all that. And it was a great idea, Councilor. So we all went out there, and I let them know this is what she wants. And as we
It's her fault.
as we started looking, underneath those trees right there run fiber, runs electrical, runs water, and the main thing were the roots. The roots are everywhere. So we could relocate all that stuff and then cut these roots, but now it weakens the tree and possibly kill the tree. So we said, I don't think we could do that. But Councilor Barnaby, our board member Barnaby, we hung them on the trees like this.
I think that's,
So-
and Miss Coker was the one that also wanted lots
Yes,
of
yes, she did.
color.
Yes, Ms. Coker, I'm sorry. And so these flowers will now drape and start hanging over the edge right here. We hung them high enough on the street so they're not using them as punching bags on the weekends. And we're gonna continue with that. So, a little bit of bad news. Phase 2 planning project that Dean talked about. We identified all the areas, the stuff that we need to replace, the existing stuff, lilies in this area, hedges. And then once we do all that, like we did in phase 1, then we'll come back with all those beautiful flowers that Mr. Jones we're gonna plant. But we're out of money. I had a $2,000 budget for plants, and I'm about $2,100 into it. So this phase, we have a plan in place, hanging pots, all that good stuff. But Chris talked about it and Lance, and we're trying to figure out how we're gonna move my money around to get some money to plant in this area. So some daily tasks. Every Tuesday and Friday, my staff comes in at 4 o'clock in the morning, and we power wash the sidewalks. We first blow off all the sidewalks, then we come back and we pick up all the trash, and then after that, we apply a degreaser, and then we start to power wash Main Street in front of businesses, the high traffic areas. We actually pull out a scrubber and we scrub in front of those high traffic areas. And on Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday, we start at 6 o'clock, 6 a.m. We blow off Main Street the first thing in the morning. We pick up all the trash in the corridor area, which includes alleys. We also address all graffiti in the area before the customers come to work. Any debris that is falling off the street, I saw board member Barnaby walking with some palm fronds down the Main Street. I had to stop her and throw it on in there. So twice a day, even more, we drive the whole corridor area, and we just get rid of all that stuff so you don't see them. Some normal duties, which I talked about in prior slides. We trim all hedges. We spray for weeds. We trim all plants. We trim trees. We fix broken sprinklers. All sidewalks that have been overgrown. We address them. We paint curbs, fire hydrants, water lines, electrical boxes, refinished aging wood, trash, graffiti, customer requests, and city requests we address immediately. It's like real time. You call it in, it gets to me, it goes to them, and you probably could come back in 5 or 10 minutes and it will be gone. Some of the requests we have, I'm not gonna talk about it, it's stuff that people do in alleys, but we clean it up. We don't care. We don't want our customers to see it, and we don't want the people visiting this beautiful city to see it, so we clean that all up. So that's it in a 10,000-foot view. Do you have any questions for me?
I have just a couple. I am very excited about everything that's going on. I think our Old Main Street, that's, to me, kind of our face to everybody. And so I am glad to see us taking the initiative and going ahead and doing all this extra stuff. I was hoping, because I've seen this in a lot of other communities, that because I think our antique street lamps are just so, they identify us, they kind of send a message that we are kind of Old Main Street. And I would love to see those, they have those planters that kind of go around the street lamps. And I found them online, and in fact, the picture is from one from Sarasota. And then you just put them, I understand you have a budget issue, so this has to kind of get looked at that way. But, you know, you can put cheap, the Vincas are cheap, you know, maybe some, I'll probably get in trouble, but the potato vines, when they grow in the baskets, they're bright and pretty, and they live pretty well. And I just think if we could find the more budgetary, and I would also like to see the Downtown Merchants Association get involved with this a little bit, maybe assist you as part of it, because what we're doing is gonna only enhance for them as well. So that was only one, and also, whatever happened to geraniums? A lot of communities used to do, because they had the color, they were heat, and you don't see them anywhere anymore.
I'm not quite sure. I can do some research and find out.
They used to be kind of a go-to and fairly affordable and pretty resistant to the heat, but you can't even find them anymore.
I remember that Lowe's and Home Depot.
Mr. Jones, you're not, you have to come to the microphone, please.
To answer your question, I'm not quite sure, but I can do some research. I did used to see them Home Depot, Lowe's, but I'm not quite sure what happened to them.
And they're colorful and,
Yes, ma'am.
I just
I'll
have
ask,
been
I have
curious
a couple
about that.
resources that they should know. They're deep in the market, so I'll find
Yeah.
out for you.
I was just curious.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions?
I think you all are doing a fabulous job. I've noticed a huge difference, and you cracked me up when I went to move the one palm frond, and all of a sudden I hear this truck coming by me, beep, 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 beep. I'm thinking, what?
But yeah, and they're just a great group. I still have my other job to do, you know, the Clean City Coordinator and the Code Enforcement Officer. So I pretty much, sometimes I don't even see them in one day. You know, I'm out there doing work, getting calls, and try to keep up with what their needs. But
We see them working.
awesome. That's what I need to hear.
Yeah.
Thank you, board members.
Thank you, sir. Now you can go back to work.
Bye.
Let's go ahead and, item 6A, Community Redevelopment Agency Arts Center Manatee Project Finance Agreement.
Yes, so this had come to the board previously. I think it was removed, if I recall, because there wasn't a lease or deed on the new area that the art center was going to be built on. So before signing the contract, I believe the board wanted to have something in place showing that they did have an interest in that parcel, that area, to build a new art center Manatee. So Ms. Neerman's here, and she can speak to, they have a executed amendment or addendum to the lease that incorporates that area. So now they do have that interest, and so we can move forward with this contract. There was a couple items that we did change because of timing. Now that we're closer to the next fiscal year, and their timing on their demo and starting the new building shifted a little bit. So basically, the only two changes to the contract would be that it was $600,000 allocated in this fiscal year, 23-24 and 24-25. So they're not going to start anything this fiscal year really for us to be able to reimburse those costs. So they asked us to move this $200,000 for this fiscal year to the 24-25 fiscal year. So the allocation would be next fiscal year $200,000, and then on the next fiscal year, upon the completion and everything, and receipts and invoices, then the $400,000. That was changed, and then also we had put in that the project would finish at the end of the 24-25 fiscal year. So those were the only differences within that contract. So if you have any questions in regards to it, or any questions for Ms. Neerman, she's here.
Any questions for Ms. Neerman? Okay.
I think my biggest question is, and I supported this and still support it, but in light of the recent changes and everything that we read in that memo, and us committing the funds to a nonprofit, are we okay that it was done before? That we've already approved this? It seems like this doesn't fit into what we're supposed to be doing now, going forward. Are we okay?
I spoke to Mr. Rudisil about this agreement, and those issues were not raised. So it's my understanding that this would be something that would be, that memo, the CRA memo, would not affect this. I don't
Okay.
have any belief that it would.
Okay.
I mean, this is something where you are beautifying, for all intents and purposes, a piece of property within the CRA. And it's going to be used for, as I understand it, it's a sculpture garden, if I remember, and used by those within the CRA. So to my knowledge, no, we are not going to run afoul of any of those issues
Right.
based upon the memo that came out in May.
Thank you. I just felt like I needed to clarify that.
Understood.
Yeah.
Sorry, Mr. Mignon, I'm looking at the agreement that was in my agenda, and so when you go to 2B, it says $200,000 for fiscal year 23-24. So is it just my copy, or does that?
No, that's what it's, that was a change.
That was the change. I apologize. I thought you indicated it was going to be for 2024, 2025.
So it was supposed to be $200,000 for fiscal years, consecutive fiscal
2022,
years, starting this year.
Okay.
So what we asked for,
Okay.
that was a change that I had Mr. Rudisil make.
Understood. Okay, sorry. I just want to make sure I was on the same page. Understood. That was it.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, ma'am.
motion to approve the project finance agreement with Art Center Manatee.
Second.
Motion is second by Mrs. Coachman, because I heard her first.
You can hear better on this.
Yeah. Turn that way, but I can hear. Motion second, any discussion? Hearing none. Take a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. We're going to take a 10-minute recess here. Being back to order. Did that softly, you knew it was coming? All right. Ma'am, if you would.
Sure. Okay, so it's, we obviously, this is with regards back to the agenda item for 5A, which is the appointment of the CRA Executive Director. How we left things was that Chair would negotiate a contract with Mr. Burton, and those terms would come back to the board. It's my understanding that Mr. Burton is prepared to begin immediately. I believe he, well, I'll just leave it at that. He's prepared to begin immediately. So I think that for purposes of allowing him to start immediately, the terms need to be talked about today. So I think you can still go ahead and give Chair the responsibility of negotiating with Mr. Burton. However, if we want to have a discussion about salary, obviously his start date will be immediately, and iron out some of those other terms, and then Chair can basically we can draft an agreement, or we can work with Chair to make sure that those agreements are solidified, those terms are solidified, and Mr. Burton can then start immediately. So I hate to do this, but I think we actually need to go back to that. I don't know if we want to move that however you want to do it, Chair. I'll leave that up to you if we want to, but that item needs to be fleshed out a little bit more, given what we've just found out that Mr. Burton is prepared to start immediately.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
this may take some time. We've got people here that have been waiting patiently.
Fine.
Could
Yes.
we circle back to this at the end of the meeting?
Absolutely. I
Not
just
trying
wanted- I
to
wanted
not do it in front of people, but
No.
I know there are people that are here.
I want it to be brought out now for anyone who's sitting here and everybody watching, but also that we would bring it back up at the end.
And do we need HR for the city to be involved in this discussion?
I don't believe so, because if you stay in line with what you did earlier, meaning that Chair would be the one that was responsible for these negotiations, Chair will work that out with HR. He will make sure that the terms that are going to be offered or what have you are ultimately handled by HR. So I don't think we need to have an HR person in here for this discussion.
Okay. So we'll move on. We are now on item 7A, is that correct?
That's correct.
All right. Community Redevelopment Agency, Central CRA, purchase and sale contract for 1021 6th Street Court East.
Thank you. So, as many of you or all of you already know, yesterday at the council meeting, it was approved that the CRA can move forward with the contract in the conveyance of the CRA-owned property at 1021 6th Street Court East for under fair value. Having that done, now we're on to the next piece of the process, and that's going ahead and approving or having the chair, after a few maybe minor adjustments to the as-is for sale and purchase contract, to go ahead and have that authorized and approved, and we can move on to the next step after that, which is putting together a redevelopment agreement, or putting restrictions within the deed, and I'll work with our conflict attorney on the best route to handle that. And then that'll allow, if we have the contract executed, that'll allow the buyer to go ahead and start with title work, inspections, all that kind of stuff. And then we'll have to bring the redevelopment agreement, or how we're gonna handle that as far as any restrictions that we'll have in regards to the homesteading, anything else that you guys might think of to put into that redevelopment agreement, if you want a first right of refusal, anything like that, and we'll bring that back to the board as well. And all that will come back, and we'll go on to the next pieces of the process. So that's kind of where we're at right now, and you all have seen the contract. If you have any questions, our conflict attorney's here, and any comments. Thank you.
Okay. Any questions of Mr. Mignon or council?
Is this, did we, is,
We haven't made.
Good morning, Nancy Meyer with Daniel. I was going to jump in and talk about what we had just discussed. During the break, we had a conversation about the contract as it stands right now, and it was recommended, it's on page 3 of 12 of the contract under 9, under closing cost, that the very first item, which is documentary stamp taxes and surtax on deed, if any, under what the seller would be paid, be crossed out, because the back of the contract and the additional terms indicates that that would be paid by the buyer. So that way there's no chance of any misunderstanding. So if everyone's okay with removing under 9A on page 3 of 12, just crossing that first line out, because it's captured in the back of the end of the contract. Did everyone catch up where I'm at? That's the only modification that I've heard from anyone on the board. And I know we need to change some dates because this is kind of taking a little longer than we thought. So those modifications will be made. And like Mr. Mignon said, this is just to kind of keep this moving. Lets them get in there, look at it, get their inspectors in there. Let's get started on the redevelopment agreement. I captured the comments yesterday, so I know some of the things that council has asked for and what that's a board you've asked for. So we'll bring that back and continue that conversation to make sure we capture all those. And of course, the potential buyers will have input as negotiated.
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
30-day inspection period, is there a reason that's that long?
No, I think that's just the.
And this is just standard.
No, that's not standard.
Is there?
Usually it's 2 weeks, 15 days.
Oh, is it?
And also, this is a cash offer, so there's no financing contingency. Is she aware of that? So if there was some kind of a condition with the house that would preclude financing, that would make me nervous if I was acting on behalf of the buyer. This is
what the buyer submitted as far as.
Well, I just want to make sure she's aware of it. That's a little bit risky if you ask me.
She can speak to it, if you like.
I'm just being fair.
Once again, thank you for the opportunity. I am aware of the financing issue, and the reason the price point is where it is because I was unsure without any type of inspections on that house, mainly the roof. And typically with roofs, if it's more than 20 years, most mortgage companies will not give a mortgage. Most of them won't. So that's why it was like, and I talked this over with other people. This is the price point because I know I'm depending on inspections. I may have to shell out some for a complete new roof. And I talked this over with my uncle, who I've been asking questions on how do I proceed on each step or whatever. And this is why I did what I did, and I do fully understand it.
So are you going to bring financing to the table? I mean, are you planning on getting a loan to purchase this?
No,
No.
no,
Okay.
all cash.
Okay.
And just for clarification, your uncle is an attorney as well.
He has a law degree,
Right.
and trying to get him to take the bar so he can officially say he's a practicing attorney
Okay, but he has legal knowledge.
Yes, he has legal knowledge. And,
No real estate.
Well, I understand that, but I just, for everyone here, it's, like, I have uncles too. I would not discuss my finances with some of the uncles that I have. So I just to remind everyone who our uncle is.
I think that was a good question, though. May I, Chair?
Yes, ma'am.
Something that Attorney Myers and I did not get a chance to talk about, but it might relate to what your plan is the ability to obtain financing when your structure is in this condition. And I'm not sure if that master redevelopment agreement is going to require some insurance.
And insurance, yeah.
Yeah, so that's just gonna be something that when we're doing the master redevelopment plan, if you're buying cash, then that, obviously that risk is, you're bearing that burden if an insurance agent tells you that they won't insure it as is. But if you're trying to get some kind of financing, but we're requiring you to get insurance because of our master development agreement, it's just one of those things that I'm sure that you can work it out with your counsel and or Attorney Myers, but I just raise it as something for all of us to think about.
Do we know the age of the roof? Do we know the age?
I think it's, well, it was built in 99.
You think it's the original?
See, that's why I was iffy with.
It's
the-
not iffy. Over 15 years, they just aren't. I mean,
Yeah.
watertight, looking good, they still won't. They just won't. They want 5 years life to
I
insure.
had nothing wrong with my roof at all, but my insurance company said I had to re-roof.
These are just the realities, which I don't want to get you in a bad spot. So I want to make sure we're considering all this, and I want to get this going forward as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
So those are just my concerns.
I don't know how I don't know how to address them today. That's why I suggested that between her counsel and Attorney Meyer for us, that we work out the timing of that, because it is gonna be something that is gonna be something you have to deal with, most certainly.
I am aware. I am.
You may speak, ma'am. Please come forward. I can't,
You got
please come, if you would, please help her come forward.
Because she did, yeah.
I tried so hard not to, because I'm Alma's grandmother, and basically, there are 3 things in my life that are important to me. That's God, my church, my community, and then next, my family. We're right, we know what Alma's responsibilities are. We're accepting those responsibilities. No, she will not take out any financing. We are backing Alma on every, she's aware of that. We know we've been inside. We know that there's flooring needed in the house. We know that the windows